Good morning and welcome to WINA Morning News. Time now 7:41 as we go to the phone lines to talk about this new SAT. Now, it's said to be more true to life, but it's posing some challenges. And here to talk about the changes in the exam is Jean Burk of collegeprepgenius.com. Good morning, Jean.
Hey, good morning, Wendy.
I'm happy to have you on with us. Now, you're an SAT instructor. You've been a homeschooling mom and a creator of this revolutionary program, College Prep Genius. It's a curriculum that's helped thousands of high school students prepare for the SAT. And now it seems you've got to revise it because we have a new SAT.
Yes, we started analyzing the test last August when the College Board released some full-length tests, and took several months to go through it. But, it was a matter of just, because it's a standardized test, just finding the recurring patterns. And what still works on the old test will work on a new test, and, what was changed. And, the great thing about a standardized test is you can figure it out. And we figured it out, and now we've got kids who are doing a new program. And, these tests are learnable because they're really just about logic.
Okay, so some of the research that I've done says that the SAT now is more true to life. How is it more true to life?
Well, I don't know if I agree with that or not. I think you're still going to have questions, that are still based on math, reading, and writing, but they're not normal questions. They're not written in a 2 plus 2. They're going to be written, more in a critical thinking question. And so, just like the old test, the questions are purposely misleading and the wrong answers look appealing, because the 4.0 at one high school is not the same 4.0 at another high school. Every school calculates their scores differently. So the only fair way a college can compare all students is a test like an SAT, because it levels the playing field. And so they're looking for critical thinkers. And so I would say that it's not that much different than the old test in the sense that it's still measuring your thinking skills.
Okay, well, David Coleman, he's the president of the College Board. He says the SAT had gotten disconnected from the work of the American high school. Now, here in Virginia, there is some debate over whether the work of the American high school is just now teaching to the test. We have the SOLs here in Virginia, and a lot of the teachers will agree, if not, publicly, they will agree privately, that it feels like that's all they're doing is just teaching to the test and asking kids to basically just memorize facts instead of really opening the classroom in a way that I believe I had as a child.
Oh, I agree. Here in Texas we have what's called the STAR test, and right before that we had what was called the TAX test, and I think every state has one. And those type of tests are so frustrating for parents and teachers and students. Because they cease all teaching of actual learning and real curriculum, and then they just teach to that particular test. And that comes down to money. That's because schools get more money the higher the school tests on those type of
right, but at that point, Jean, you're just teaching your child to basically be rote, just memorize these facts, and then throw them back out onto this test, and that's learning.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what those tests do. The SAT, actually, as well as the ACT, are not like that. They are logic tests. And the reason why they design these tests this way is because, anybody can just, do a basic math question. But what they've done is, over the years, colleges have collected data. They've recorded all the SAT scores and that students have entered college with, and they are able to use that to basically assess college readiness. I mean, it's not a perfect program, but it at least gives an idea. So they can take a student who comes into college now with, let's say, a 1350, and they can compare that to a student 5 years ago who had a 1350, and they can track them to see how successful they were. And it's a pretty good system. It's not, like I say, it's not fail-proof, but they can also, if a student comes in with a 900, they can look at all the students in the past who scored 900 and kind of get an idea, how well they did in college. So that's why they use, a standardized test, because like I said, it equals everyone else.
Now, Mr. Coleman from the College Board says that this is an attempt to redesign the exam, trying to make it so it looks a lot more like the work the kids do in high school. They're redefining some of the features of the SAT they're talking about some of that obscure vocabulary known as SAT words that they've cut from the new test. Now, is this being done to better serve poor students?
No, I think it's better served for money. You know, the number one reason why the SAT was changed in the first place is when David Coleman took over, 1.8 million students took the ACT and 1.7 million took the SAT. It was the first time in history that ACT takers had surpassed SAT takers. And so they wanted to regain a piece of the pie. They wanted to, gain those students back. And so they felt like if they lowered the vocabulary and made it look more like the ACT, they might get more students. And yes, maybe even lower socioeconomic students. But like that, I teach in Title I schools. I teach in very wealthy schools. It really doesn't matter what school you go to. The SAT is testing your knowledge, your critical thinking skills, and how well you can answer questions under pressure.
Now, I realize that your job, your company really is to help kids prepare for college, okay? But and a lot of your work is based on what's happening with the SAT. But when we look at the way education has gone, like we just talked about the SOLs, and you are a homeschooling mom, would you say that now David Coleman is saying that the SAT is trying to be more like high school exams, when parents are already unhappy with the way high schoolers are being tested, for the most part, not every parent, but a great deal of people are unhappy with these SOLs. Are they going to be happy with the SAT? Do you see the ACT taking over?
I don't necessarily see the ACT taking over. Both the SAT and the ACT are almost the same test. And now, once they've redesigned the SAT, they look pretty much the same. As a matter of fact, a lot of the ACT writers are now writing for the SAT. So, when I tell parents, I've been encouraging parents, for 12 years, because, I'll get students who are honor students and valedictorians and top 10% of school who bomb the SAT, and they think they're dumb. They don't understand why they did terrible. And I just have to retrain them to look at the test completely different. If you're going to study for a history test, you study history. If you're having a geography test, you study geography. What you have to understand is, if you're studying for a logic test, you've got to study the logic behind the question. So really, it's a matter of just retraining how you look at the test, and you have to approach it completely different.
We're speaking with Jean Burk. She is the creator of the revolutionary College Prep Genius curriculum, which has helped thousands of high school students prepare for the SAT, the PSAT, the MSQT. You're all over the place, Jean. You've taught your own kids in school. You're an SAT instructor even now. I guess the concern for me is, what benefit is this for our kids at all? Only because we're seeing, it feels like, I realize that you're not saying this, but it feels like a dumbing down of the SAT. Is it not? And is it of benefit to our kids to take the SAT? Not just for like inclusion in college, but I don't know. It just seems like, is it a valuable measure anymore?
I don't necessarily think the SAT measures how well you are, how smart you are, or what you've learned in school. We know that. SAT measures, are you a good test taker, and can you be a good critical thinker? That's really what it measures. And here's the bottom line: why parents need to, make this a priority for their kids if their kids are going to college. It's the only numerical component that colleges use because it's common to all students. And it's, everybody looks the same on paper. And so, your child might go to a really hard, very rigorous school and get a certain GPA, and another student might go to a really easy school, or just basically a school that's, very political, and you have the same GPA, and there's no way a college can compare those two students. But here's the bottom line, why kids need to make the SAT a priority. Colleges go up on their rankings nationally based on test scores. So that means the higher the scores, the more money you get, because basically you make them look good. So it's not necessarily measuring, what you know, but it's measuring your ability to take a test in a critical thinking format. But then once you take the test and you get that scholarship money, then you get into college, and then you can learn. That's where the learning is going to come from, is in college. But, the debt is $1.2 trillion in college debt. The median debt is about $100,000. And the goal is to get into college and graduate debt-free. That's the goal. And then once you get to college, then you can, study to be a teacher or engineer or doctor or whatever. So, I've had kids raise their SAT 600 points. I've had lots of kids go to Ivy Leagues for free, and it all came down to that test. And is that fair? No, but that's just the game they play. So I just teach families, listen, general test taking is going to help you in so many areas. You're going to be testing the rest of your life, not only in getting into college, but even in your job, they're going to be testing you. And for us, not only did we get free college, my son earned a lot of free law school scholarships. My daughter earned free grad school. So once you learn how to take a test, you can apply that on AP tests. You can apply that on subject tests. So it really goes a long way.
It definitely does. And I appreciate your pointing that out because it's really hard sometimes to hear, that it's all about the money and then still encourage our kids to go ahead and do something. But like you said, it's the game they play. And the bottom line is our kids have to play the game if they want to get far in life.
Yes.
Unfortunately. But,
I know.
But thank you for being with us, Jean, and for explaining that and for helping our kids with the new SAT and to study for the newer setup of the SAT and the different questions that they're going to face. I appreciate your joining us this morning.
Well, thanks for having me.
Most welcome.